For my listeners that are not familiar with Canyons and Locusts, can you guys give us the backstory on where both of you are from, how you met, and how you started playing together?
Go ahead, Justin.
You go.
Uh, well, I'm I'm not from Phoenix, but I've lived here a few times, a couple times now. Somewhere, I'm from Cleveland, but somewhere in the middle of that, I went to New York for about 7 years. Um, and that's where I met Justin. I was playing in some other bands, and one of them, we had a person leave. I can't even remember exactly how it ended. And the bass player and myself were looking for someone, and we saw flyer for Justin. No, yeah,
I don't even. That's why I was like, I feel like I have this. I have a version of the story in my head, but I
yeah.
don't even know if that's like. I don't actually remember. Maybe it was an ad. Maybe like the New York Press, but maybe a flyer.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I called, but then there was like, I think I somehow the number was wrong. You got it. My number was wrong. Somehow my number I left for Justin was wrong, but he still just kept trying combinations of numbers or something
Was
and
that in
found the right
Manhattan?
number.
Were you guys in Manhattan?
I was in Brooklyn, he was in Manhattan.
Yeah.
So did you start playing together
Yes.
with the bass player?
Yeah.
And how did that go?
It was good. We knew right away like we liked this guy and his songs, and it just felt right away.
Was it a different name?
Yeah, it was a whole completely different band. Justin, you can take it from there.
Yeah. I mean, it was. We were called the Jumping Bomb Girls. Um, and it was very, very. Yeah. I mean, it was like play, playing with Amy, especially. I played with a few different bands in college, and had as part of trying to restart music as a young adult, I had sort of met up with different people, and it just immediately clicked in with Amy, especially just that uh, she's really a guitarist drummer, um, and that happened like instantly. I don't know. I don't think I had the musical intelligence to realize that in exactly those words, but I was just like, this feels really right. You know,
Are you a New Yorker or are you from Mass originally, Justin?
I'm from Mass originally.
So
I went to school in New York and then moved down to the city after I graduated.
what school did you go to down there?
I went to Vassar up in Poughkeepsie.
We
Yeah,
might
super
have talked
fancy.
about this last time, and I'm surprised I remember that because Vass is one of my favorite topics.
Oh,
I think such one of my really closest friends, Lev from the Charms, went to Vassar, and you guys are so smart, man. You Vassar.
It's
Justin's
really
pretty
beautiful
smart.
up there, especially in the fall.
It's a tough school to get into, man. You must be pretty smart when you were in high school to get in that school.
Uh, I did all right. Yeah, I made it do.
Um, so you guys, did you guys ever live in the same place after New York, or did Amy move out to the west from New York and then you stuck together as a band? How'd that work out?
Yeah, we did. I moved back to Arizona, I guess. Yeah. And that configuration of that band, we would meet up here and there and record, do the same kind of thing. So we did stay together as a band. I mean, pretty much up until the time Canyons and Locusts formed. That's kind of how it made that transition.
So talk about that. How did that happen, and what made you come up with the name Canyons and Locusts?
I think that we, um, we had a couple of stops and starts and stops with recording um as the Jumping Bomb Girls, and I think we'd had a session planned, and then it ended up not being able to happen. And Amy and I just sort of like, hey, do you want to? Should we try a two piece? Like do a different project? And we were both like, yeah. Um, Gosh, I don't. I feel like the name. I think I said it, but it was just like one of us would have said it. It just was like it just feels like so it just
Yeah.
is like the perfect name for us. I can't explain it other than to say I really truly believe it was out there somewhere in the universe and one of us just had to grab it. Like we just kept kind of batting
Yeah.
names back and forth, and when you
It's
hear the right one, you're like, yep, that's it.
it's like once we made that decision, like we had that time scheduled to do some kind of project, and then when the other thing didn't happen, it was like, why don't we just do this, and see what happens? And then for me anyway, everything just felt right. Like it just fell into place. And we had talked a little bit about names, but we weren't obsessed with anything. And then we were talking and he just said it. And it just, that was it. There wasn't even a question like, let's see how that feels. Or it's just like, oh, yeah, that's it. That's it. So
You
I
guys
think
came
that
up.
was for me. Yeah. The
Yeah,
whole thing, everything just came together and fits.
it's definitely come together musically, without a doubt.
Thank
Um,
you.
you guys came on my radar through Justine Covalt, the late Justine Covalt, and I believe that was around 2022. Um, how earlier before that had you already formed as a band? Formed become Canyons and Locusts. Was it right around that time, or was it a year, or?
Yeah, I think it was. I feel like we recorded in at the end of 2021, maybe even. I feel like I remember being in at New Alliance with Ethan on New Year's Eve to like do a final mix or um of 2021. So the sessions were, I don't remember the exact month, but they were pretty close to when
Yeah.
Justine signed us.
Yeah, we finished that record, and then uh Justin was mentioning that he was going to send it over to her, and it wasn't long after. And then she was so wonderful and receptive, and it just, it happened really fast.
How did you find out about her, Justin?
I think I think it was through being friends online and friends in real life, although I haven't seen him in many years. Being connected with Peter Bazell of Devil
Okay.
Love. And now I think he has a solo album coming out, but Devil Love I knew was on Red on Red, and Peter had actually recorded a demo for me to send to um Amy, and the last time we recorded as a Jumping Bomb Girls out, we were out in Seattle. Um, so Peter had recorded that demo for me to send to those guys, and just like seeing him online and seeing him kind of evolve into doing his own thing, and then I just kind of looked into the kind of bands that she had on her label, and it was like this is a natural place to send out. Um, and everybody no one ever had a bad word to say about Justine. Like,
Yeah.
so it was just like, yeah, of course I want this person to at least hear our music. And I was like, I knew if I sent it to her she would actually listen, just based on her reputation, and she did.
Yeah, I remember when she told me about some of the bands, and I heard you guys, and I probably told you this last time, but I immediately gravitated towards you guys, and I thought your sound was just right up my alley, and I loved it. You mentioned Ethan Salt. You've been working with him pretty much on every project, Roll the Dice and the EP and now the new record. Talk about your relationship with Ethan and how that has grown as time goes on. And you seem to be very comfortable working with him.
I,
Yeah,
oh, go ahead. No, please.
I was just gonna say we sort of joke around that Ethan is the third Canyon and Locust. Yeah. He's awesome. Like he's go ahead, Amy, but I'll jump in after you're done. He's awesome.
So for me, like I love being in the studio. It's one of my favorite things. I love recording. And some of my early experiences in New York, like involved. So if do you know Paul Johnson, he used to have a studio in New York called Compactor. And that's probably the first place I fell in love with recording. And it had in large part to do with Paul Johnson. He was we recorded with him Jumping Bomb Girls. I recorded with other bands that I was in. And I just it made me fall in love with the studio experience. So it set a whole, bar for me. And I'm always looking for that kind of like a person who's really listening to what you're saying, um, wants to provide the kind of experience that you want to have, tells you, is honest with you about you know, what direction you're going in. And we found all that at Ethan's. He's great. And he understands the sound that we want. And that is the most important thing. He's not, you know, he gives as much information as we ask for. And we always want more. He's just he's careful, I think, to uh, let us take the responsibility for creating our sound. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a great experience. Like we haven't even thought, we're going back in June, so we're gonna make another record there. So
Wow, that was already. Now, have you actually recorded together at New Alliance, or did
yeah,
you?
every time.
Yeah, okay, so you've flown out and you recorded the drums there and everything. Okay, I wasn't sure about that at first. Um, Look, this is a concept record. I listened to the record. It's fantastic. I mean, I like everything you've done. Can you elaborate on the whole concept for the listeners out there and exactly how the idea came into your head, Justin, to do this, and then how Amy's role came into it?
Sure. Um, Before that, I just say like Amy just nailed exactly like I'm getting over a cold, so I'm like I'm on all kinds of medicine. So I don't remember exactly what she just said about Ethan, but there's something along the lines of like he really lets us he want it's so important to him that we find our sound. And he's amazing and he's done just that every time. He's amazing. So I want to just weigh in on that. Because that we've had great recording experiences, we've had some not as great. um and it can be like the studio can really be like a sacred place, and it's you're sort of you're bearing your soul in a manner of speaking when you're playing your music, and it's like you're putting it out on a plate for someone to help you with. And then there's a lot of trust involved in that action, and we trust Ethan completely. um Probably in part because he's so like, we'll ask him, well, what do you think? And he'll, no, what do you think? First, and he's a true leader in that respect, and I think
Mhm.
he's like a guide, and he's helping us versus like the goal of the record is up on a whiteboard, and we have to make sure that happens. So Ethan's awesome.
Yeah, he knows that
um
studio very well because he built it. So I mean, it's like, and he has a long history with New Alliance going all the way back to two studios before this. I've seen Ethan work a lot. He's an excellent engineer, definitely. Um, you
yeah,
didn't answer my
this
question, but I'm going to
I
ask it
no
again.
I can answer now. This one, um this is an odd occurrence for us in that like I legit had a very vivid dream one night last year, maybe 2023. I can't remember exactly when this happened, but super vivid dream about this character called the Goal Gigolo who was like an asexual gigolo. Like I guess we'd call him a life coach now, if he existed. But it was like this guy who was paid to solve emotional problems for people out somewhere on the West Coast. Um, and the dream was very much like it was like a 70s dream. Like there were a lot of sepia tones, like there was a bar that looked like the Regal Beagle from Three's Company. Um, and so I woke up and I was like, this is crazy. And I was like, I don't want to lose this idea. I don't know what it is, but so I went into Chat GPT and I was like, I just put the details that I could remember from the dream. I said, give me like a pitch for a television show based on this dream. And I didn't have intentions of trying to pitch a studio or anything. I just wanted to see what it would look like. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And it spat out like 10 different episodes. Um, and I was like, well, I don't do TV shows, but we do make records, and this would be kind of cool to do a concept record and something that um our last record was dedicated to Justine, and it was sort of like something that someone that we felt very very dearly, very strongly about, and it was kind of cool to have to take a step in a different direction where it's like there's this character that just came into my brain while I was sleeping, and his name is the Goal Gigolo. Like that was in the dream. I was like, this is weird, but let's go with it.
Interesting. I like Chat GPT, by the way. I only discovered it recently, but I seem to forget about Wikipedia ever since I discovered it, because you can ask it anything and it will give you the answer
Yeah.
to whatever. You've kind of written this way before, though, to Art Bell and some of the other things you've done in the past. You're like a storyteller, and that's what's going on here. So you came up with this. And did you run it by Amy right away, your idea, or did you say I'm gonna like get all this, get the music
I
together
think
and then
I
I'm gonna talk to her?
probably I think I probably mentioned it to her, but it took a pretty quickly, but it took a little while to actually like this was definitely a different process. I went back into old demos that I had on my phone and was just like, does this song fit? Does this idea fit? Um, so I don't know that it was an immediate like this is the album and I have these are the names of the songs, which is kind of like how I usually write. Um, but it was a really different process for me, and I wanted to honor that. Um, and then we when we get in the studio, it just becomes this whole. Um, it's incredible to see uh, these germs come to life, you know. And
Well,
it's like I don't.
I was actually gonna ask you if there were obstacles in translating the concept into music and lyrics for you.
The only the like the first song, the kind of like when the Gold Gigolo, it's called "Have to Fire That Gold Gigolo." He's being fired because he's so charismatic. Like, I have to laugh, just it's like it's silly, but um, it was fast, like a little bit faster than I had played it or I had heard it in my mind. But that was like that's the only thing I think of in the studio is that I was like, oh crap, I don't know if I can play this 5 times in a row. But this was in my mind, this was, I don't know, Amy, I don't know what you think, but this was just so easy to me. It just happened.
Yeah. And it's amazing too because, none of our records sound exactly alike. And within a record, none of the songs sound exactly alike, which I love. And there's not, I think that's probably a little thing that's different than a lot of bands about our process is that, we don't have a lot of time to spend recording or practicing these things. So a lot of the magic happens in the studio, and we have really come to love that. A couple people have asked me, like, how do you adapt to like when someone gives you a concept like the Goal Gigolo? Well, it's not just some stranger giving it to me. It's like, so it's one of your dearest friends and your musical partner telling about this dream they had. So of course, my first thing is, well, I want to understand this guy. So I was like, well, are they firing him because they're mad at him? Or they, and he's like, no, no, here's where they're coming from. So then I kind of get a little vision into this dream, and then I feel like just there's so many things that happen about what we write that just bring in these parts of us into it, like he's kind of a West Coast guy and I'm on the West Coast, or there's sometimes we're thinking about the space and distance in our songs, and those things are applicable to like who we are too as a team. um it's just life, right? There's so many things that are universal, and but then they're kind of specific to us. And so it's exciting to get in the studio and then just feel it. It's like it ends up being more of a feeling since there's so much less time to really sit and think about it. And it's like there's so much inherent stuff we understand about each other, what we want to do. We want to make good songs. We know how we want things to sound. We love big sounds. We let the emotions be there when they're there. So it's, yeah, it was easy for me to grasp onto the Gold Gigolo. I wasn't it wasn't like, whoa, what are you thinking? It was like, okay, I'm going to see how I can understand this and get involved.
Yeah, I like reading lyrics and stuff when I listen to music. So I've listened to this, but I still haven't grasped everything yet. I don't know if you guys are going to put the lyrics on the record, but that would be a great idea. I was going to ask you how do you hope listeners will engage with this album as a complete piece, like I'm trying to engage with it right now? Do you think that people will grasp onto this concept, or do you think it's going to take a little while for them to listen to it to figure out what's going on here?
That's a great question, Steve.
I really work
You
hard
know,
at these questions, believe it or not. I try to
no,
ask
that
great
I
questions.
know,
Yeah, you're
yeah,
amazing.
I know
Yeah.
you do, and they all are. Like it's a joy to speak with you because you really do ask great questions. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think whenever we make a record, we're intentional about the the track order and the kind of the arc of the whole project. Like we as part and we are like just like Amy said, like we are a team. And as a team, we have both, we have grown up on albums and listening from start to finish. So I don't know that I necessarily even need someone to um or want someone to hook onto the whole concept as much as I just want them to kind of go for the ride from track 1 to 10. And um, you know, Amy and I could probably it would probably take us a minute to give you 100 different pieces of music or even moments of music that have like raised goosebumps on the back of our neck. And like ultimately that's what we want for our listeners. We want something to hook them like that and give them a moment like that because I think those moments are precious and beautiful.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like
It's like a
concept
whole journey.
records. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just saying it's like a whole journey. Just go through the whole trip.
Yeah, I like concept records. I immediately start thinking of Pink Floyd and Arcade Fire Suburbs, I thought was an excellent concept record, So I like I like a story. Do you guys have you guys been influenced by writers like Roger Waters and people like that when you're making your music? I mean, is that what gave you the idea for a concept, or is this just one of those once in a lifetime deals where it popped into your head and that's what it's going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's hard for me to, when I think of a concept record, the first one I always think of is Zen Arcade, Husker Du.
Yeah,
And that it's like, I mean, but the flip side of Zen Arcade, it's also just like one of the greatest American rock and roll bands at the peak of their powers. Like,
I
so
agree.
whether it's a concept record or whether it's just like 20, 24 songs, however many, with kind of a unifying theme. I think that's more, I don't necessarily need a record to be a discrete concept like that, or like Quadrophenia or something where it's all like this very but I do love records with just like a unifying theme or a unifying vibe. Um that stuff I love.
Yeah, I can tell. I can definitely tell, man. Um, I was going to ask you if the music evolved alongside the concept, or did the storyline, did you have the storyline in place and then the music just came with it?
Yeah, I think really the storyline such as it is, or just like I kind of envisioned as each song is kind of a signpost or like an event, um or even a feeling. Like the second song is called Trapped in the Trigger, and it's very much about like hesitation but also bravery, and I think you can kind of hear that in the interplay um between Amy and I, especially on that track. Really nailed that. Um, so yeah, I think that the music kind of evolved signpost by signpost. Like we had a main idea for each song, sort of like um, I don't know if that answers your question.
Close enough. It was interesting that you brought up Husker Du's and Arcade because I wouldn't have thought of that, but now I understand what you're saying. That was a great analogy right there. How does the album, or how will the album artwork tie into the concept of the album? Is that something you also thought about? Amy's nodding
Um,
yes.
yeah. So I that picture, the Goal Gigolo, whose first name is Machek, by the way, just in case for the historical record, he has a first name. Um, I also uh, I threw a description of his character into some sort of AI art generator, and it came back with that face and also that weird. There's like weird lettering below his face that I think was their attempt at writing the Goal Gigolo, but it just looks like gobbledygook to me, which I think is also kind of cool.
Yeah.
um,
See, I think it looks like
the
there's like a language uh that's just specifically associated with him. That
yeah
yeah,
Could you
that
say
doesn't take
the
you to
name
any.
again? Could you say the name Matrick? How did you spell that?
yeah Machek, Maciek.
Okay.
Yeah, I've worked with I worked used to work with a guy named Machek, and I don't know, he looks nothing like this character. But I don't know. It's one of those, to me, that name just like came to me. Like this is his first name. I don't know his last name. Maybe Gigolo. Lachek Gigolo could be.
I
As
personally
so
love having that picture of him having you know, you're telling the story, but then you have this visual go to, and it's like that's your guy. That's the guy.
As someone that has crazy things going on in their head, I admire what's going on here, Justin. I really do. I mean, the fact that it was like a dream, I guess, originally is how it all
Yeah,
started. Hello? Did I lose you?
yeah, I'm still here.
Oh,
I'm
I
here.
thought I lost you there for a second. Um, Now I know I don't know if you guys played any live shows
We
recently.
did in Boston.
You did. So I was going to ask if this is how do you think you'd be able to do the do you think the concept would come through in a live show as well? Would you play the record in the order if you did it live?
We haven't talked about it, but it could be done.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. The challenge for us is always like when we get together is the practice time or the studio time. Um, so we are like we're trying to get some shows set up in Arizona in April, which is super exciting. And it'll be tough to figure out the set list because I think there's, it's like you hear the first record we've obviously sat with for the most amount of time. Those songs are really like we could probably just walk into a room and play most of those songs, I think. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would love to, I think that would be super fun with the right amount of time to practice, to play that one through 10. It would still probably only be like 17 or 18 minutes, but
Yeah.
like we probably need a few more songs than that to
Uh,
round out a set.
Can I just say I love short songs because who needs more than 3 minutes to get a point across
Thank
anyways,
you.
you know? I've talked
Yeah.
to other songwriters about this recently too, and it's like I like a long song, but I love a 3 minute song, and your songs are short songs, and I like that. Um,
Yeah.
Okay, you have an excellent publicist. He'll like that I'm mentioning that. So I was wondering if you've probably gotten some responses already, and have you been excited by the response you've gotten? You've heard mine. I love it. And have you heard other people's response to this record yet?
The singles,
Yeah.
yeah, not the whole record as much yet, but yeah, it's always overwhelmingly nice and to hear you know, feedback and have people say that they like it and share it.
Do
I
you
think one of the
envision?
coolest things,
Go ahead. Sorry.
sorry, I was gonna say like for yeah, Mike's an amazing. He's the fourth, I think, Canyon and
Yeah,
Locust.
he
He's
is
awesome.
outstanding.
Just
Yeah,
such a just such a super sweet dude.
yeah,
Um,
so cool.
yeah. the the single, the two that have come out for this record, yeah, the response has been phenomenal. And I think that one of the things as a team that Amy and I both really love is, obviously we do a song and or we do a record and we bring our own influences in, and um yeah, like if you told me that you thought the song sounded like you know 1980s era Chicago with Peterson, like I'd be like, that's not so good. But I do love it. Like we bring a song in and we bring a record in and we do it and we put it out there. And I think it's and then it's just like we're giving it to the world. And like they hear what they hear and they have moments with it that they have. And it's wonderful to hear like comparisons or things like that we like never would have thought of. And then it's also nice when people are like, yeah, there's some Husker Du and Guided by Voices, and like, yeah, guilty as charged. We
Yeah,
can't like
we've
it'd be
gotten
hard
some
to get
some
away from the. really
Yeah.
formative stuff.
And I'll take that too, but also there's been some things like with Roll the Dice, and on that we've heard that are like, it's just an honor to like somebody to say it. We've heard everything from Wall of Voodoo to Mission of Burma. I'll take all that, you know what I mean? That's all the
All
stuff
of
we
it.
were eating growing up, all of it, and yeah, just to get your in the same mention with some of those bands, it's like, yeah, I'll take it always as an honor. Like we want people to like what we do. We love it. We're so in it and we're having an amazing time with it. It's like that's what you want. You want people to dig it.
Yeah, I don't think Justin was offended when I said his voice sounded like Jay Farrar from Sun Volt. I remember
No.
saying
I
that
take
a
it.
while back. Um, if you could pick one song from the album that you'd like to see interpreted as a music video, which one would it be and why? Haha, I got you to smile.
I'll tell you mine because it would be Moriarty the Serpent. Because the title is based on um there's some goofy New York City movie from like, I don't know, 1980, maybe 70s, with it's called Hugh the Winged Serpent. It's like the serpent Quetzalcoatl, or however you pronounce his or her its name, is like menacing New York City, and what stands between uh the that and devastation is little old Michael Moriarty, whoever whatever part he plays. So I would love to see like a 70s montage kind of a movie video for that.
Wow. You already dropped Three's Company earlier, so this is good, man. Serpents, Three's Company, Michael Moriarty. I mean, uh, okay, so let's
Wait, I want to
see.
hear Amy's answer.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry. Go ahead, Amy.
uh, well, I mean, if we were gonna enact something, just like literally, probably Detain the Piano Man. I would like to see how that would play out. That there is a piano man in that song who is in need of detainment, and I would
We
like
know
to
who he
see.
is. Yeah,
Pardon?
we know who he is.
We know who he is. Yeah,
We don't need to say his name.
yeah.
Um, okay, what's the most unexpected thing you've learned about yourselves creating this record? Pregnant pause.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I guess because I asked that because it is a concept record, you know. And my next question would be, do you think you're going to continue in this pattern and possibly do more like this? Or is this a one-time deal?
Well, I think Moriarty the Serpent is kind of a bit of a departure for us, that track, because it's, there's a long for us is like 30 or 40 seconds. There's like a long instrumental portion at the end of the song. And
Yeah.
and I think just that in the studio for for me, and I think for Amy too, is like, man, we just locked into that, and we didn't have any idea how long it was going to go. It just was like, okay, here we go, and we're going to play this, and then at some point we're going to look at each other and we're going to just know it's the right time to stop the song. So I guess knowing that, I don't think we've ever done a song like that where we didn't exactly have an end point in mind. Um, but I think knowing that we could do that was pretty cool. Like, we're not in a Grateful Dead, but we can like we can go a little bit longer and just kind of and know when the right time to stop is.
Yeah. I think that's for me, that's what I learned, I mean, is that you can get in there, and it's a vulnerable place, but just that, it's just like a place where you can continue to put no expectations on yourself other than to let, like, obvious goals. You want to play good music, you want to sound good. But then the rest of it is, just to sort of let it be organic, and just continue to evolve in that kind of space. So every time I feel like I'm learning more and more how to, be there, it's like magic, and just let you know, the rest of everything else go by the wayside.
I love what you guys are doing. Thank you for coming on, talking about it some more. When Michael approached me and said, "Will you have them on the show?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course," because I really do love the music. And I can't wait to see,
Thanks, bud.
be able to read the
Thank
lyrics too. But thanks, you
thank you.
guys.
Yeah.
Thank you
Are we
so much,
signing
Steve.
off now?
Yeah. Unless you have something else you want to add, Amy.
No, it's just great to see you and great to talk to you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, hold on a second.